we're going to be looking at the specific types of landslide events. These are going to be based on the type of movement that happens. Our first type of movement is a fall. A fall begins with the detachment of soil or rock or both from a steep slope along a surface on which little or no shear displacement has occurred. So what that means is it's not exactly sliding along very much. It just breaks off and goes into free falling. And you're going to end up with the material moving by falling, bouncing, or rolling. But again, these are usually on particularly steep slopes. Our first type of a fall we refer to as a rockfall. This is a rockfall that happened in 1987 in Yosemite Valley, in Yosemite National Park. This is one of the largest rockfalls that have been recorded there in recent years. And you can see there is a really big boulder back behind the 12-passenger van there. And that probably hit really, really hard when it fell. When I look at this picture, I often wonder just how loud that would have been. But Yosemite is particularly prone to rock falls. So this is the documented falls from 1857 to 2011 when they know the timing. And you can see that these happened throughout all parts of the year, although some of the largest ones are more towards the spring and winter, which you can see there. Now, the reason why Yosemite Valley has so many rock falls is hopefully pretty evident in this picture. This is one of the most famous sort of views looking down. You can just see Half Dome peeking out behind us. So this view is looking north, but the walls at Yosemite are really, really steep. This valley was created by moving glaciers. And so we say it is a U-shaped valley. If you remember from flooding, we discussed V-shaped valleys. Well, this one is a U-shaped, where the walls of the valley are really, really steep. So rock falls are abrupt downward movements of rock or earth, or both, that detach from steep slopes or cliffs. The falling material usually strikes the lower slope at angles less than the angle of fall, and it starts bouncing. Those bouncing pieces are going to break up and begin rolling along some of the less steep slopes towards the bottom. Now, these happen all over the world, but because they move so quickly, they tend to be one of the more deadly types of landslide events. Now, let's see. We're going to play one of these.
We had decided to rent bikes to ride around the valley. We were only here about an hour and heard this loud, thunderous roar and couldn't tell where the sound was coming from. And looked around and I saw rocks falling off the wall over to my right. Whoa, Rockfall, look. Had to get my camera off the bike as quickly as I could. That's why the footage was a little shaky. Had to take the wide angle lens off of it and was lucky enough to catch the third rockfall. Look at that piece.
To notice here is watch the trees and look at the big pieces that bounce along the slope.
On video, you can see a rock slab detaching from the cliff face, sort of skipping down the cliff face, hitting a prominent ledge, breaking up into a bunch of pieces. And some of those individual pieces are 40, 50 feet on a side. And those pieces then are free falling through the air, spinning on their way down. They fall several hundred feet, and then they impact the talus slope at the bottom. And some of those huge boulders will be moving down the talus slope at 40, 50 miles an hour, snapping large trees like matchsticks and going all the way down to the base of the talus slope and the valley floor.
We're standing at the base of the Rockfall that happened on August 26th of last year, 2009. And this is one of the rocks that fell from it. I thought they were about that big, you know, because we were about, I don't know, half mile away. So they didn't seem that big. But now looking at it, they're huge. It's amazing to think that it came down from up there and then bounced. I guess it must have bounced, right?
And
All right. So that's fairly dramatic footage. And again, Yosemite is really well known for these rock falls. Now, why that happens is because of a couple of things that happen in Yosemite. You've got obviously the steep slopes, but it's also an area that gets really cold during the winter. And so differential weathering, because of freeze-thaw cycles, ends up driving a lot of these, which is why on that map you saw a lot during winter and spring. During winter, when water gets into cracks in the rocks and freezes, it expands and opens up those cracks even more, and that causes a lot of rock falls. During the springtime, as you get snow melt, there's a lot of extra water in the cracks and crevices. And sometimes you still have a freeze-thaw cycle even during the springtime where that water is able to melt during the daytime but refreezes overnight. And so here's one more, and this is, again, from Yosemite. This is on the top of El Capitan, which is a really famous climbing area if you're into rock climbing. This particular one that happened in September 2017 ended up being deadly. This one's interesting.
Rockfall number 5. Here comes number 6. Look, look, look! Oh, fuck me!
Sorry.
Oh, jeez!
You know, from up here where we were, that rock didn't look that big, but it makes a big old mess moving down. Now, in this particular rockfall sequence we see here, nobody was affected, but in another one during the same sequence, was actually a climber that was killed. Unfortunately, they were at the bottom of the slope. They'd actually stopped climbing, and were just standing at the bottom of the slope, hiking back to their car when it happened. It was a married couple. They were celebrating their first anniversary. And the husband actually ended up shielding his wife with his body as everything started falling, and he was killed, but she survived with injuries.
Particularly safe place at the moment. Okay, we're now a day or two later after the first 5 rock falls. By all intents and purposes, this is massively, massively larger. I felt the ground vibrating underneath me. Dude, it went across the road. Across the road. Unbelievable. Holy crap. Holy crap. This could have killed people on the road.
You can see in this video they're quite a bit higher. Notice they said it's a day or two later. They've actually been on that cliff face the whole time climbing, but I believe the person that's recording, I think he said he spent thousands of days on El Capitan, so he's a pretty seasoned climber there. And so to see him kind of freaking out a little bit about it is kind of interesting. This is another kind of shot from that video that I took a screenshot, but you can see how these rock falls happen because there's It's basically, this is granite, so it's peeling off in sheets as it's under less and less pressure. But as it's called sheeting, and as this sheeting is happening, it creates some of these really thin, really delicate rock pieces that fall pretty easily. So rock falls can happen by weathering, like I said, the freeze-thaw cycle. It could also happen because of human activities, because if you do road work nearby that shakes the ground around quite a bit, it can actually dislodge some of these. It can also happen because of earthquakes, which happen just a little bit up here. It's pretty common too, where you have undercutting of slopes by streams and rivers. You'll have rock falls into the rivers. Now there's some things you can do to help prevent these. I'll come back to this video here in a second. Oh, there we go. I'll go back to those other ones because I love these rockfall videos. So there are things you can do to prevent rockfalls, or at least to slow them down. You can't really prevent them too well. But the big things are these rock curtains. So I'm going to play this, and it's going to show you what it looks like when a rock hits a car. I'm going to zoom forward just a little bit. Oop, there. I love just how loud these booms are. Now notice, that is not a very big rock. They're gonna drop some bigger ones though. Yay! So here's another one. Oh, nope, that was the same one.
Der Schaden am Auto ist riesig und die Überlebenschancen für Insassen äußerst gering.
But you can see how these can be deadly, because that, if you're driving, you're not going to see it coming, and it's gonna hit pretty darn hard. That's a little bit bigger rock there for you. I love how the whole windshield pops out. So what they're going to do is, and this is created by a company that creates rock barriers in Switzerland. Switzerland, because they have the Alps and in the northern part, or I'm sorry, in the southern part of Switzerland, they have the Alps, and so they have a problem with a lot of landslides and rock falls. I have no idea what he's saying. I'm sorry. All right. So what they're going to do is they put up nets. So these nets are made out of metal, and they are made to sort of bend and catch. So we can call these rock curtains. I actually forget what the actual term that they use for some of these are, but it's pretty cool. So what they're going to do now is show you how well these rock curtains work. That's them in front of some, so you can get an idea of the scale of it. Here they go. And now, there you go. So it catches on there, and it doesn't hit the rock, which is pretty cool, right? So for lots of different landslides, there's a lot of engineering that goes into protecting people. I'm going to show you a couple more videos because I can. So this is one that's happened in Switzerland. This is from the Department of Transportation. So you can see it happened in 2015. And actually our next movement is topple, and that's kind of topple. Wow, they're so loud. If we get a little closer to home here, this is a rock fall that actually happened in 2019, so just last year, in Glacier National Park. One of the reasons why this stuck out for me is I was actually at Glacier in July of 2019. I'm sorry, I had to think a second. We were actually up there either end of June, first part of July, in this case. And this one turned tragic because a 14-year-old girl was actually killed. And if you look, those aren't like giant pieces of rocks at all. Um, but the rockfall hit the car they were driving in, and everyone in the car was injured, but unfortunately she was killed. But just look at those previous videos from Switzerland, you can see how much damage even a little rock can do. Now, one of the things that's kind of cool is if you know it's likely to happen, I'm going to turn my sound down. If you know it's likely to happen, you can actually make a rock fall yourself. So what you're seeing is footage from Norway, lots of glacial valleys there with a really big helicopter with basically a really big weight. This looks like a fun way to be a helicopter pilot, but probably pretty scary too. So what they're doing is they know, oh man, that's a big fall. What they know is this is an unstable block. So they are just knocking it to try to go ahead and get it to fall when nobody is under there. So they know when it happens so they can clear it out of people. So no one is actively surprised by this. But look at those exploding as they go down, which is pretty wild. So that's exciting. If I keep playing it, it's usually pretty easy to see these landslide scars or the scarp. Because here you can see the material is really, really weathered. So the dark stuff, but it's a lot lighter behind along the failure plane, which is kind of interesting.